Hello, welcome to the Meeting Tent, an ongoing series on the work of Stan Tenen. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our usual cast of characters: Michael Andron, Daniel Gill, Idelle Packer, and Levana Tenen. So we've gone through in our past episodes, I guess it's been 9 episodes, where we've analyzed the meanings of the letters based on Stan's matrix of meaning chart. And now we're going to put that to practical use by showing you the hand gestures. And we've talked about it a lot. In fact, on many of those episodes, we showed or demonstrated the hand gesture for the letter we were discussing. So it's an integral part of Stan's work. I think anybody watching this, if you're watching this for the first time, it is an integral part of the work, and I invite you to go through some of the references we have to watch some of the introductory material. We're going to be doing the hand gestures together. Idelle's going to lead us. Some of us are more expertise at it than others, as you will see. But it's a good lesson. We invite you to join us, try it out. Just to recall, each letter has a meaning, and Stan developed those meanings, and that's what we previously discussed. In regard to the hand gestures, to verify the meanings of the letters, his main way of doing that was by using the hand model. This is the hand model. Levana has the original one that was used in photos that we're taking. If you go to the Alphabet That Changed the World, Stan Levana's book, you'll see photos of it, and that's the model she had in her hand when she took those photos. What the hand model does, and I'll show you a clip in a second, is it verifies those meanings because the position of the hand, displays the letter through the hand model. Let me show a real fast clip of Stan demonstrating the hand gestures using the hand model.
I can see now an olive, and I'm going to unfurl it and say the letter name as I do it. I'm looking down at towards my waist, and in my hand, I see the K shape, the Rashi Nachmanides olive. Now, if I do this motion, I get bait. Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Rov, Zion, Het, Tet, Yud, Chof, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Hey, Sadi, Kuf, Resh, Sheen, Tav. I'm going to go through it again.
Okay, that's from our video, The Dance of the Hebrew Letters. It's available on our website, www.meruvideo.com. And then Stan goes through them letter by letter in more detail, but he shows it to you with the model. This is what's so amazing about this. The model, this asymmetrical model, displays 22 of the Hebrew letters. Now, in the video, he didn't do the final letters. That was done later. We discussed the final letters in previous videos. We'll be showing you those today. Where does the model?
What year was that done? Because that's the video that I learned the letters from, and they were changed. Several of them changed over time. So Levana might have a word about that.
I believe that was 1992.
91 or 92.
Yeah.
But in the course of the following decade or so, yes, some of the letters, the positions were changed, as I recall, particularly the yud and the kaf. But Idelle is actually, of all of us, Idelle is the most practiced in doing the letter gestures because she uses them specifically in her work. So if people are watching, if there's any doubt as to, if we don't look like we're in unison, watch
Mhm.
Idelle.
Yeah, we'll try to follow her.
Yeah. And
It-
I will also say that the final letters were, we refined those much, much later, not until the early aughts, 2004 or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we should mention that Adele is a choreographer, and she did do a dance, choreographed a dance. It's on. We have a discussion. I forget what episode. It's one of our earliest episodes. It's when Adele first joined us. I think it was 5 or 6. I don't recall, but it's on the list, and you can get more information on that. The hand model. Where did this come from? This didn't come out of thin air. It didn't come from the gestures themselves. This is a representation of the first verse of the Hebrew text of Genesis. The first verse of the Torah is represented geometrically in this model. So I'll give you a few seconds to wrap that around your head in terms of this being the device that's used to demonstrate the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the letters that actually write or were used to write the first verse of the Torah. And we've had many discussions about that, and we'll probably be discussing that even more. The important term there is device, and we've talked about the Indian. We lost Daniel. Oh, there he is. The importance of a device that shows up in certain studies in the past. We won't get into that right now, but we do want to talk about this a little bit more. But let's get into the hand gestures. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to get in position so we can show you full body, because it's all over the place. The hand gestures. Just trying to think if there. There is one other thing I do want to. Well, I'll show you the chart. I have the chart from the book that shows the various hand gestures. It is in the book. All these hand gestures displayed, and we'll show you that a little later. But anyway, let's get in position and let's go ahead and do it.
So Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion, Bet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Sameh, Ein, A, Sadi, step back, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Ta.
And then
Ta
the finals.
includes it.
The finals.
The finals, okay. So if we go back to Mem, the final letter for Mem, the arms come out. Mem Sophie, palms are front. If you go back to Nun, the final Nun, Arms go straight up, palms are together. Nun, Sophie. Sadi. Sadi would be here, but the final Sadi, the arms come down, the palms are still, no, the palms turn inward. I'm forgetting one, the Chaf. Chaf, right, so Chaf is here, where the palms are front, and the final Chaf, the palms are front, but the arms are down. Oh, there's one more, Pei.
And the pay.
Pei, yes, so Pei is here for the Pei in the middle of a word, or the beginning of a word, and at the end of the word, the final one is like a very odd. It's making a big scoop under, and the back of your hands are toward your ribs. That's that idea of puffing, of being very full. So that's the final.
Okay, so let's start with Aleph again. Show us Aleph.
Aleph.
Okay, now what does Aleph mean? Let's talk about, and we don't have to stay in this position, but we've talked about it in previous episodes. All is all,
One, wholeness.
wholeness, okay.
Womb, inwardness. You can throw out words, anybody who wants to say.
Yeah,
Aleph.
but we definitely see that correlation, especially womb, oneness, all, oneness. And don't forget, you know, your people who are watching us, you're not feeling it. And so when you do it, you actually feel the position also, and it adds to the meaning. Bait.
Yeah, it helps too to just like ground your feet, find your spine, and see how the arms are kind of in front of the body, at least to start, and that this rounds the body. So I tend to bend my knees a little to see the shape as the whole body is one, and it's pointing inward.
Inward, right.
If that helps, yes.
Sure. Okay, bait.
That is a breakout from this unity into the first distinction of two. So there's a sense in the transition from Aleph to Bet of breaking forward, of moving out. Are you in the house or out of the house? You're at the threshold. Would you like to go out? Would you like to stay in? But it's still, you have choice. Bet is two. Anybody else want to say anything about Bet?
Well, it's the contrast between inside and outside. It's an
Yes.
important letter, first letter of the Torah. It has a lot to do with this research. And again, I don't see it, but I can kind of feel it.
Sometimes I do Bet as a breaking out, and sometimes I do Bet as a blessing. How would that change the quality of Bet?
Beit,
Yeah.
bracha.
So Aleph to Bet. Do you want me to go on?
Yes, please.
So from Bet, my legs get sort of strong under me. I'm more straight-legged, and the hands come sort of, it's kind of like binoculars. That's the way Stan taught it to me. He said, like binoculars, but bring it down.
Mhm.
So that's the angle. I could come closer to the screen too, so you could see it. It's just, yeah. But different from, to make it really different from Tav, the elbows are relaxed and the hands are in. So Gimel is really like the humps of the camel. Gimel.
Gimel means
Moving
camel.
forward with limitation.
Yeah.
I love that idea. It's very meaningful. Like, how do we move forward with limitation?
Also, it's also reciprocity, reciprocal.
Nice.
Okay. Then
Anything else
Dalet.
about Gimel?
Okay. And then Dalet.
Dalet is a pouring down. So the wrists rise and the fingers pour down. And I saw when Stan did it, his hands were a little higher. I usually have mine just under the chin, and I don't think it matters.
It all depends on the sight line. That's what's important is, what if you are feeling it, and looking at if you had a hand model, basically where your eyes are focused. If your eyes are focused here, then it's here. If your eyes are focused down slightly, then that's where it is. It all depends on the sight line.
And once again, if you watch Stan's video, he'll show you the Dalit on the hand model in this position and all the other letters. So you'll actually see why this is the Dalit.
Yes.
And
Dalit, is a doorway. Kind of think of, oh, I'm going through the door, right?
right.
That you're standing at the threshold of Dalit door. It's also, he talks about the delta, the change out of the water from a more contained place into the open. So
what is the movement from Gimel to Dalet?
Gimel,
Gimel,
Dalet.
Dalet.
To me, it's all in the wrist, that here my palms are a little forward. And when I do Dalet, the hands drop, the pouring down through the fingers and the wrist rises.
And your elbows too.
I'm sorry?
You're raising your elbows as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Gimel seems lower elbows. Dalet is really, it's like a lift, an inhale. Anything else about the meaning of Dalet that you want to say? We did it in such depth in previous meetings.
Yes, we have covered this in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
All right, so now
Then we'll go to hey, and it's almost like I'm pulling my hair back. It's a little more open through the elbows and the palms are down. And I think of hey as a breath, that these might even be the domes of our lungs. And it's also the light that comes through a window. So when you go from the door here of Dalet to hey, it's lighter. The eyes go out. We're receiving the light from the window.
you kind of see it in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
It seems like that.
Sometimes, didn't Stan say sometimes he could see it in his mind, even though his hands were behind his eyes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was the
correct.
letter.
Well, on the video that we just saw, Stan had his eyes closed. And he referred to that, the fact that it's easier for him, it was easier for him to do it with his eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could visualize it. You can visualize where your hands are with your eyes closed. He used to point
Yes.
that out a lot.
And that's why doing them all together silently with your eyes closed is the most meditative form.
The hay is interesting because I talked with Stan about this. The hay, you see in the opposite hand. So the hay you see in your the hay faces that way. It goes from right to left. So in if you're looking at it, what is the left hand is typically what's the other person is seeing, and the right hand is what you're seeing. But with the hay, it's opposite. I asked Stan if I could switch them like this, which he said was fine if you want, but it's just interesting to know that I don't feel the need to do that now. But it is interesting that the letter that denotes connection or a window, or it is, you see the opposite point of view.
Yeah, just as a reminder, he points that out also. There's two models, a right and a left hand. They're reciprocal. And so you would see the letter from a different perspective than he does, depending, and it depends on your point of view.
Right. In your right hand is is your mind, and the left hand is the communicative device that the other sees.
That's right.
Right. So hay seems like it's the only one. It's a little bit different. I mean, the hay, I'm seeing the hay in my left hand. It's just, I did ask him about it, but he seemed to think it was fine either way, but
Maybe that window is like a mirror. There's some reflective sense about hay.
right.
I have to think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a connection. I mean, it connects sight line.
All right, so that's hey. Vav, the right hand is in front of the left. I'm gonna move back so you can see.
The right hand's in front of the left.
Yes, so it's like yeah, the hands are pouring down on top of your head. Now, when Stan does Vav, he brings the hands a little behind his head.
Mhm.
But I found spine was more available to me. If my hands are a little in front, then I can sense the Vavness of connection from my feet to the heavens. Because that's what Vav is. It is that connector. And it's a long spear spine of a letter. So I mentioned that to Stan, and he said, that's fine if you want to bring it forward.
Yeah.
So it's whether you do it here or you do it here, it's your option.
I actually have a question to clarify, Idelle. When you say
Yes.
the right hand is in front of the left, do you mean that the left hand is the one that is the closest to your body? Or the other way around?
I'm going to get really close to the picture here. So this is the position, one hand, the other hand, and one's in front of the other, and it's right on your head. It's like a crown. Your
Okay,
focus is
yeah,
on
reverse
that.
on the-
that is natural. I'm just realizing that the words in English are
As opposed to the left hand in front of the right. And we talked about this idea of the metaphor of the right side being chesed, and chesed having sort of the overall power is very nice. If you're left-handed, you would still put the right hand in front of the left.
Okay, so what you're saying, I mean, if you're doing the thing of doing it as Stanley did it, with it behind your head,
Yes.
then it's still that would be the right hand would be closer to your body. I mean, it's the
Yes,
definition.
the right hand would be on your head and the left would be kind of falling off
Okay,
from your body. But when I do it, both are over the head.
yeah. Okay, interesting. All right.
And of course, Vav is one of the 4 letters of God's name.
Mhm.
And there's something about this shape that at first feels so weird, but then feels so powerful. If you're very light on your head, it's as though all that energy from the top of your head is pouring through your palms and through the back of your hands upward.
Hmm.
So it's a connector. It's very light, but it's connecting you to the higher realm.
Mhm. Interesting.
So that's Vav. Zion, you go forward.
To project.
That's exactly what the word means, projecting forward.
And it's a
Projecting
weapon.
out. It's like a spear that you throw, right?
Yeah.
So from your head, you're just throwing your hands forward and sideways. It would be like that. And again,
your
that
knees
sense that
are your
back
knees
is-
bent, or you're just doing that
spine
for
is
the?
back and your hands are forward. There's sort of this opposition, the way you would be if you were water skiing. That sense
Are
of
your knees
back
bent?
is strong.
Your knees are bent here.
I do. I bend the knees, and I think Stan bent his knees a little also.
Okay.
So you come from this tall place and you slide down into, it's like
Yeah, that's true.
which is really like that spear just flowing forward.
Interesting. Okay.
What else about Zion?
Trying to think of the meaning. Zion, project. What words start with Zion of significance to this?
I don't know.
Where's our scholar?
Yeah,
I
the
think
root Zon.
maybe, you know.
The root to give sustenance, Zon.
Mm,
Yeah, so Zion and then final Nun, but with Zion and Nun, you know.
yeah,
You know, I mean, if you did those 2 letters, you know, like Zion, like, you know, you project out and then what comes back is opposite, you know, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
sustenance from projecting out to leading you somewhere that seems not maybe what you expected.
but is that a Nun Sophie?
It is, but just, the Nun Sophie is, like,
Right,
I mean, it's also like, out from bottom to. But just in terms of the roots of it, not as a
Yes.
word, meaning, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
if you're working with the word Zon, then it seems like it's here to here. But if you're working with the root, which is also helpful, it's it's here to here, because a lot of words are based on the root.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so it just can be, both can help you figure out what the word means, In one is in context and one is like taken more like intellectually or like out of context.
Yeah, one
Yes,
of the things,
the most beautiful thing about this gestural language is making words and finding the new transitions and the new meanings between the letters of any particular word.
and there's so many ways you can do that. You could go through and just spell out the word itself,
Yes.
the letters that make up the letter, basically, like Dade and Zion. But in terms of forming a universal sign language, that is kind of direction you'd want to go. But today we're just taking the individual letters. Maybe if we have time, we'll get into more in terms of combining the letters. So
Right.
after
I mean, it's originally meant as a feeling language also, meaning
Right.
there's a certain aspect of feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Zion we go to
So Zion, we're going to Chet, which is our number 8.
a
So
fence,
we're
field,
going-
fortress.
Yeah, it's also interesting that every letter is a number. So this is a surround. If you move, you get the sense of your hemisphere, what surrounds you, that hugs you into this peripheral place where you are. So Chet, that's one of its meanings, surround, breath. Are there other meanings that you want to remind us?
Oh, that's good.
Chet.
Of course, 8 is mystical. It's beyond 7. It's the realm beyond our everyday. 7 days. 8 takes us someplace else. So again, if you get the transition between Zion to Chet, you get the sense of surround. And I always make the hands slightly behind by the end. So from here, it indicates the surround by having the arms a little further back than side, just slightly. So that's Chet. Tet has a little tension in it. I think it might have been Stan who said it's like holding a challah. But he also said that it was constriction, that there's a certain tension, like a snake that's about to pounce, right? So it's just, we're holding that moment of constriction.
So the palms are facing your body and the back of your hands facing out.
Palms are kind of facing
I
each
thought-
other. Yeah, the hand is facing you. That's true.
Huh.
So the
Yeah.
front of your
And
hand,
all of the shapes, no matter what letter you're in, you're holding the handpiece, which puts you in this kind of cupped position.
so it puts my hand facing my heart. And Tav, the letter Tav comes.
Right.
the
Yeah,
meaning of
Tav
the
is,
word.
is
That was over
it's
here.
similar to quite a few letters, but it has its own uniqueness. So we'll get to it at the end. But the hands really turn differently in Tav.
Well-
So this is holding a challah, right? Hold this little round shape in front of you. And you can think of your spine back, your elbows out. There's a certain tension of the circle of the shape. And there's other meanings of Tet. It's a container, because its shape is almost like that. So it's like a little container or a vase. Any other?
Well, it looks, I mean, with the model, it looks more like this, like your hands are bound. I mean, if I'm trying to see the tet in my right hand,
Yes.
I don't see it here.
Oh,
I
interesting.
see it here.
Oh, kind of like,
Just
like
to
that.
clarify, it looks like, that looks like a tet to me. Kind
You
of
have a
bound, scrunched up, and this looks more like, maybe like a mem or something. Like a
we'll
backwards
have to
mem.
look at the film where he showed the
Yeah,
letter he saw
yeah, so we could just take a look at that.
and check it.
Right.
Because I'd like to know, because
You
that
have
would.
you have the hand model on your hand, Luana?
I do, but honestly, I'm going to go, it's going to look odd because on a different screen here, I actually have the photos that we took, and which they were cut off obviously for the book, but I am going to go down to Tet because I can see much more of my body and be more exact as to
Let me see
where we are here.
let me see what Stan's doing.
It could be, I mean, it could be doing like,
Yeah.
like that, maybe. I'm trying to visualize
Okay.
it.
Here, let me put up what Stan's doing here on
Looks like
Tet.
this, actually. Okay.
You see Stan?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And that was one of the letters that was changed.
Ah, okay, so that's not gonna work for us.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because that's more similar to the way I do it. So if it changed, I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, it's more like this. There on the later videos, even in like squaring the circle,
Yeah.
when he's doing the demonstrating the letters, he actually uses the changed version.
Yeah, that was done in '99, so that was later.
Now let's see here. In the Tet, yeah, I see what's happening, I think. Yeah, it's more like this. And
It would be more like what Daniel just said he could see
Yeah.
in the model.
Yeah, and it's easier to see the tet, absolutely.
yeah. And what I will do, Idelle, actually, is you may need to remind me, but I can send you the actual photos that we took from which, you know, he cut off the just my hand.
Right.
And you can see a little bit more of how it's positioned, you know, in relationship to my head and stuff.
Yeah, so then from het, it would still have a sense of constriction.
Yeah.
But we'd bring our hands more forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm seeing you. They're kind of going forward, pinky side forward.
Yes, pinky side forward.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
actually,
so that's beautiful. We got a new tet.
Mhm.
Then from here, Yud is just relax the hands and let them fall toward you. Self-referral. Yud is your presence.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's, you know, he said even the primates might, you know, go, me, you know,
Mhm.
stay away.
How is
Fine.
that different from the Aleph?
position.
All
Oh,
of the
that
hands
it's
are
further
twisted in and the elbows are forward. And
And-
Yud is very relaxed. I mean, really, it's just me. It's mine. I know this, you know, all those kind of self-referral moments where you might make that gesture. And I let the hands really just like totally relaxed. Just your fingertips, your thumb and your fingertips fall toward your chest. So it would be that.
Yeah, with the, it's like the pinkies are sort of down
Yes.
and they're sort of turned like this because if you had the model, then you can see the Yud as this particular portion of the model
Okay.
is where you can see the Yud. Now that Yud is a letter that obviously you can see in a whole lot of different places.
Right.
This Stanley chose actually as a result of a visitor demonstrating this gesture unconsciously when he happened to be pointing to himself and referring to himself. So it was like, oh, okay, the yud has got to be here.
So was that like higher in the elbows than what I'm doing? Because I'm just like falling my fingers toward me. And it looks like you're lifting your elbows a little more.
Well, my arms are kind of tense anyway. So, people might do this. I'm doing this just because I've got a lot of tension in my arms.
And then to distinguish it from Daled or distinguish it from Gimel, it seems that the fingers are at your chest.
Yeah, and also you're actually literally pointing to yourself. You are.
Yeah.
As opposed to Dalet where you're not.
So Daniel, as you're using the model, if you just bring your hands in and glance down, do you see the yud?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, this is a hard one because you kind of, like Lavana said, you can see it anywhere, but it's the, what I think is neat is if you got it here, you can kind of barely see it. So you just see a little portion of something, which is a yud. That's a yud. It's like a little jot. I think Stan even used that. Like it's just like a little. So if you're kind of here, like here, like I think Lavana you had it pointing to yourself here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the elbows are out a little more.
A little bit seems like, yeah. And then you can kind of, but the context is key here. So the myself as opposed to Tafis is like myself. Like
Right.
I'm distinguished. As opposed to like me.
And just as a reminder, the tradition teaches that all the letters emanate from Yud, or
Right.
even part of all the letters except one, I believe. Yud also means hand, and so that kind of all falls into place in terms of.
Well, and
I could. Yeah.
Your hands are pointing the other way. I mean, it's up as opposed to downish.
So it's more like up like this. Is that what you're saying?
Tough.
Oh, Tav is here.
Tav.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to Tav. We'll get to Tav. But
Tav, Tav
so
is-
Yud is just straight
Right.
toward, but maybe with the elbows a little
Right.
higher.
It's the Tav is the opposite. Like but again, to really see the Tav, it seems to go that way. Yeah.
We're going to discuss that when we get to the end of the
Yeah. Okay.
article,
Okay.
but-
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're at number 10, 10th letter, Yud. And yes, it means hand, it means 10. And all
It
of
also
the
it also
spiritual
represents
10 that is contained
Yeah.
in 10.
the 10 sefirot, the
The 10
forces that
spherot,
created the
10
universe,
fingers.
and the goal is to bring that yud, that drop of tal, the shefat tal, to import those 10 energies into your heart. So,
Yes.
and that's where you're pointing. So when you're here and you're gathering, okay, the tet is kind of like you're holding it. If I'm going chet, tet, no, chet, tet, yud, and bring it all in, like it's all pouring in.
Yes, beautiful. That's exactly the embodied sense that I have when I do that sequence from chet to tet to yud. It's like it's just passing right through into me.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Number
Cuff.
2.
Cuff is this. The palms are forward. It's
Mhm.
the letter is related to palms. Just many of the letters are related to body parts, like Vav is spine. This Chaf does relate to the palms, and it also relates to light. So there's a sense of, are you giving the light? Are you receiving the light? And I remember Stan said something about, it could also mean stop. Like, this is my boundary, that's it. Can't come any closer. So maybe there's some aspect of Kaf that has that intuitive meaning, if that is how you embody it. It really depends what thoughts you bring to the experience.
Because it's palms, and palms of the hand as well, which is probably why we call it a palm tree, because it looks like the fingers
Yes.
here. If you're taking that yud that's in your heart and you're holding it between your two palms here and saying, okay, this is me internally, and I'm offering it to you in some way.
I'm offering it to you. I like
Because this
that.
is where
That
we
makes
go
sense.
from the single digits,
Yeah.
1 through 10, so to speak. Kaf, there's now 20, 30, 40 as we move up, on the tens place, not on the single place. So it's like 9 of us got us to the heart, and now we're going to
Well,
open that
10
up,
10
and
got
let it
us to
out.
the heart.
Yeah, the 10 got it. Well, the 10 being the heart. In other words, 9 got us to 10.
Yes.
And now we're entering a different mode of thinking. And this is where we begin to see the shift in the line, because we've been looking at, 1, 10, 100, and that kind of thing when we divide it up into the 3 lines. So this seems to open up a new vista, kind of. That seems to be the feel that I'm getting as I do it.
Mhm. Well, as the second row, and it's interesting. I'm not sure how one would create it, but correlate it. But it's interesting to think about that first row, basically 1 to 10 in the standard gematria. 1 to 10 is archetype. That second row, that middle row, which is what, as Michael mentioned, that
Right.
we're starting to go through, is spiritual.
It's
Yeah.
1 to 9. I think it's 1 to 9, isn't it?
Um,
The archetypal.
1 to 9. Yeah. What? Excuse me. I misspoke. 1 to 9.
Or 0 to
Yes. Archetype.
10 to 90. I am
Yeah.
misspeaking all over the place.
Beginning with yod is the spiritual line.
And then the third level, at whatever point we wind up getting to it, is physical. So
the outer.
So here's our kafka, and then you bring your elbows more parallel. That's lamed. And I do feel like I'm reading a book and kind of holding it.
mhm.
There's a sense of the flame of knowledge. The palms are up to the ceiling. And
Light reflecting into your face, a reflector.
Yeah, to get the suntan. Yeah, the reflector.
Yeah, Lamed
Yeah.
is also teaching and learning,
Yes.
absorbing knowledge.
And to me, lamed knowledge is you're really a focused student. You're really learning in that way. Whereas Hey is the kind of knowledge where the light comes to you. It's sort of the knowledge that you just absorb and you have a knowing. But lamed is a little more, I even have to work at the gesture. Lamed requires more discipline in a certain way, that kind of knowledge.
Your thumbs are out. Okay.
Well,
And
it's like-
the
yeah.
shape of the lamed, like a person leaning in and studying.
The lamed
So,
right there with the little curlicue
Yeah.
being the bottom of the lamed. Let's see.
Yeah,
Take the other hand, and if it's like this, basically you're seeing. It's hard to do this. It's really hard. Don't be confused, people, but it basically what you're seeing is the knot curving around and like this, and that's very much like that is
curve of the lamed.
yeah. Lamed is one of the letters that really fits in with the asymmetrical shape of the model,
Yeah.
especially that curve, which was really important.
So if you were not holding a challah, but you were holding a book from here, like you open the Torah and now you're zooming in to a closer look at a word or a letter. Is that from that open close, kind of like we did from chet to tet?
Yes.
That's an open close motion. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we're quite open here, and it's kind of a circular focus coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's Lamed. Mem, the hand flips up. And
It's outward, the thumb's in the front.
Oh,
it's a little
yeah.
awkward. It's
Yeah.
swinging under. So your pinkies are closer to your chin and your thumb is forward. Does that feel like the mem
Yeah.
that you learned, Ivana?
Yeah, and you can see it if you have the model, which you don't.
Right. So what is extraordinary is the letters themselves, when you do them, give an inner sense of the meaning of the letter that you can actually see in the model with your eye.
Mhm.
So there's this coming together of all these forces that the model's shape came from a geometric figure configuring of the letters of Genesis, of the sequence of letters of the first verse of Genesis. And then that very same model that came from the letters is giving us the letters. So there's mem. Mem is source. It's throat, voice. I think of my voice.
It's Mayim, water.
Yeah.
Mayim, water, source. Yeah, source of life. Yeah, and there's a spiritual path in every letter. Every letter I've learned is composed of 4 aspects that relate to Yud He Vav He. So we've got these imbuement. There's an imbued sense of spirituality in every letter. It's just how you relate to it.
I like the final.
That's mem.
No, I
Anything
was
else
gonna-
about mem?
I was just gonna say, again, we're looking at the inner mem, the inner water, the inner ocean, which is expressed outwardly through the final mem, because we are in the level on Stan's matrix of the inner letters. So we're looking at mem potential, the inner.
Yeah, if you close your eyes with a letter like this,
Mhm.
the scallop under your chin is like a scallop in the inside of you. All right, so Nun, the hands come up and cross. And again, the right hand is in front of the left. I'll come closer so you can see it. The palms are facing outward. And I like a little pressure of my left hand into my right and my right into my left. Just a slight pressure. It gives my back the opposition to go back, and I might bend my knees just slightly to get that sense of your back is in this letter. And Nun is a really quiet, soulful letter. It's the letter of your breath, neshima, of the soul, nefesh. The Nun has a very inwardness quality. So again, if I close my eyes, this crisscross is right in front of my heart.
Yeah, it's the nexus, noon. There's like a very, like a perfect symmetry to this position. When you're doing it and you see this kind of this connection, the way it's just resting there.
Yeah, and I remember when I danced it, I just kept moving it, like it just felt so full of grace and interest. This shape was so conducive to movement. I mean, right now we're just doing the letters, but they're very creative how they might move you to move. All right, so that's Nun. From here, the right hand goes on top, and we've got Samech. And I used to do it like this, but Lavana has shown me it's more like this, which I wonder which way you see the letter more clearly.
I'm seeing it, in my right hand, which happens to be on my left side, but I'm seeing it now.
So samach feels a little like holding a baby, doesn't it?
Yeah, your cradle. Cradle.
Yeah, it's a cradle, and samach is a container and it's support.
Mhm.
And again, that sort of sense of the arms and elbows moving forward and your spine moving back gives you this very solid sense of the whole samach. It's a beautiful letter. Any other meanings?
Stomach.
Support, strength. Yeah. Okay. So from samach, the hands pull apart and land at your eyes. I'll get closer, kind of like blinders on a horse. And Stan said, as long as that's the direction you're looking, you could extend your arms if you're looking in that direction, or you could bring them back. So I used that also in the choreography to find movement. But this is the simple ayin. Do you do that with your elbows down, Lavana?
Well, I seem to be doing it that way now. I was paying most attention to the model, and it's actually elbows down. That's
Yeah.
that's.
Interesting. I can barely do it with my elbows down.
Yeah,
But
it's amazing.
Some
I'm
air.
not sure that the elbow position is nowhere near as important as the sight line. That's really the key.
Yeah, because I can have my hands here and drop my elbows, or I can have my elbows out and it's a little more comfortable. And I don't think I've turned my hands. Does it change your hand position when you drop your elbows?
Yeah, well, it can,
little
it doesn't have to. Yeah,
I mean, if I concentrate on holding it, then I can raise my elbows. For me, it's easier actually to do it this
Here.
way, but that may just be because that's the way I'm used to doing it.
So this is a little different than this, because this is more like blinders and this is more like ears, or, I mean, I know ayin means eyes.
Well,
So we definitely want to
this is not at the level of my ears. This where I'm
definitely
holding
eyes.
is my eyes, and if I glance off to my right, I am seeing mine.
yeah,
So you
Yes,
do that
per-
also, Daniel, your elbows are
Yeah,
down, ayin.
yeah, I can see the ayin more this way. You know, it's an interesting thing because this is really, the connotation is your peripheral vision.
Yes,
You know, there's a meditation that a friend of mine showed me where you take off your glasses, you walk outside, and you try to see how, looking forward, when do you notice your hand in your peripheral vision?
right.
You know, and so you then open up to a wider world than Zion. You know, you're projecting. I'm going here, or I'm here looking at my phone, or whatever we're doing, or I'm on the computer. You know, this is ayin. To really see, you have to see the entire vision, the entire surround, the whole world, as opposed to, like, here would be more like, you know, you could kind of also do it here if you want, but it's better here because of the connotation, the context. You know, you could, if you
but
pull it in this
still-
way, you could still kind of see the eye in there, but it's better here because the on the side, because the vision is, it's not a narrow vision, you know. It's an ayin is also a well. I mean, it's something that feeds everything. It's not just, you know, a well in the ancient world used to be something that everyone gathered around. It was open to everyone, or at least in the community. It was bigger than just, you know, something kind of pointing vision.
Yeah, if I come out, it's very similar to kaf. So I'm just thinking that this at least distinguishes ayin as being eyes, even
Yeah.
though I'm thinking peripheral vision, it feels a little too much like kaf. You see, unless there's a change in the hand that but it seems like the palm is forward here, right? Even with the elbows dropped.
Yeah.
Cuff,
Yeah.
cuff the palm is forward. You know,
This is
ayin,
it's
it's not.
a little.
The palm is back a little bit. Are you saying?
The wrist,
Yeah.
the wrist is bent somehow.
Your wrist is cocked back a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
for the iron, yes.
Hmm.
Okay, then if it's out here, it would be cocked back. It would be different than cuff, which was straightforward.
Right.
But it's still, it's insight as well as wide peripheral vision, opening our sense of what we can perceive with our eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. I'm gonna have to
It
really
also has the,
think
you know,
about iron, and rework it a little bit. with
I'm going to
this.
go check those photos again. So I'm
Okay.
going to look odd here on the screen.
So
Michael,
from
you had comment?
mine, turn in and it's like you're drinking from a gourd. So the
Yeah.
thumbs are together and they're toward your mouth.
Where
And
are we
because
now?
it's drinking, I kind of lean just the slightest bit back, you know, I like actually tip as though I'm drinking. Pay is mouth. It's also
Hey,
the breath, right? It's actually an inhale, but when I finish my inhale, I feel the breath of my exhale on my thumbs.
Can you
uh,
come closer with that?
can you come closer?
I'm gonna
That's-
try to get out of the window
Okay.
brightness. Yeah, so that would be from the side.
Let's see from the front. Okay, yeah, that's definitely mouth.
So I'm holding the gourd and I'm tipping it back a little and toward my mouth. Of course, pay means mouth.
Yeah, you're also yelling. That's a just, you know, hey, you know, like, you know.
Yeah, like a
Hey,
megaphone.
Yeah, like you're yelling, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
hey, you know.
Yeah, and this just, you know, all of the nourishment in and the words that come out, pay has those qualities. Again, there's always opposites within the letter. So what are you taking in? What are you breathing in? And the interesting thing is the final pay is an exhale.
Mhm.
I remember Stan saying that about those two aspects of the letter, the inhale and the exhale. So anyway, that's pay. And now we go to Sadi. And I'm going to just step back so you can see me because the arms are high. And if you were a surgeon and your hands were now clean, you'd hold up your hands. They'd place the gloves on your hands and it would be kind of a clean hand sign. And Stan used that image because Sadi is righteousness. It's like pure, clean, relating to the higher realm as well. The elbows are bent, but they're pretty high. Is that how you do it, Lavana, with the elbows a bit bent?
Again, that's one of those things that's kind of up to you. My elbows are not particularly bent. Again, I will send you the photos that we took and
Okay.
you know, that out. It's again the sight line that's important.
Yeah, and I think the distinguishing between this letter and Lamed is Lamed, the wrist is cocked back and the elbows are a little closer, and the arms are a little lower. And in this one, the fingers are pointing upward. And even if you did it very high, the elbows would be slightly bent to keep the hands turned. Yeah, to the back.
We'll be putting these photos up on the screen also as we're doing this.
Yeah,
Great.
so we've got Sadi. From Sadi, this is a wonderful moment of flipping the wrists over and grabbing a limb. Kuf is monkey.
It's a monkey. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is sort of a humorous side to the kuf, right? That we're hanging from a limb. But it's also Kuf is one of those, it's a very large letter. The line goes below the line of the other letters. And Kuf is Kadosh, it's holy. So there's a serious side to the Kuf, and there's a playful side to the Kuf. And there's also, let's see if I can say the word. It'll come to me. It's sort of a negative word in Hebrew that begins with a kuf. That is, it's the husks that cover us.
Klipa.
What is it, Daniel?
Klipa.
Klipa, thank you. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, klipa. So there's sort of that dark side of the kuf, as well as the holy side of the kuf. So we've got 1 foot really low below the line, and we could fall in that direction. But we also have this beautiful arm coming up and over us, reminding us that we can elevate ourselves toward that protective arm. So that letter is just, I find it fascinating, all of the things I've read about Kuf. But I think Stan loved the idea of monkey, and that when he hit that limb up here, he could see the Kuf in that hand model.
There's also a feel, since it's coming after tzadi, which is the tzaddik. The righteous person is reaching way up. Okay, he's opened his inner eye, he's opened his inner expression, and now he's the tzaddik. He's the one who connects heaven and earth. And even if he reaches just to the top, he's still not there. But he even at his high level, or her high level, is reaching over and holding on, like you got the ledge of the building, and one more climb, you'll get onto the top, but you're never going to get there.
Right, it's either that or you slip off. So it's precarious.
Into the world of Klipa, yes.
Yeah, it's an amazing letter. So that's Kuf. Resh, the hands come down and come onto the head. I'm going to come closer so you can see it. The hands are flipped up like a crown. So all those little points of your fingers and thumb form the points of the crown. Resh, of course, is head. It's the leader. The Resh is also running. There's a lot of ideas around Resh.
Also, Resh can represent evil, or I think in this case, ego, which is in our minds, in our head. When we live in our head, I think that I don't know if there's a correlation between the Hebrew word, but in terms of the gesture, there's definitely a connection.
Yeah,
it means Rosh means head, obviously. Loud noise, Rosh. Kind of.
Yeah, rush. We're coming up to that, aren't we? Yeah, so we've gone from Kuf, and then we flip our hands again, and we've got Resh, and from Resh we go to Shin, which goes up. The backs of the hand, the palm of the hand is up, and we're really reaching high as far as I remember it. And it means expression, it's teeth. Actually, the teeth are our expression. So when I do this, I just open my mouth a little. So my teeth are showing. I feel like that relates to this upward reach of Shin. And Shin, of course, is Shaddai and Shekhinah. So there's a imbued spirituality because of the words that begin with Shin.
And you're shining.
Yeah, shine,
Yeah, the word Shemesh is sun. And it's also the source of it's the key sound of fire.
Right, they go up with their hands, and it's like Shin, it's like their love of what they're hearing is celebrated somehow with this gesture. So that's all in Shin. And now we're at the last gesture, the 22. The arms are just falling. It's like they're tired. We've gone all around the mulberry bush and they're going to land right here on the chest.
To me.
I think Stan said this, that each finger's weight one upon the other to the forefinger, that there's sort of this solid connection to the body for the last letter. And it does look a little like a heart. So I find that interesting. And Tav is completion, perfection. It's also the kind of completion where you start all over. You go to Aleph again. So there is no end. Are there other definitions of Tav?
Well, we think of the Torah.
Mm.
Mm.
And
Yes.
Torah is like that. You get to the end of the Torah and you start back at the beginning and you
Right.
hear it freshly again.
No beginning or
So
end.
that idea of coming to an end that is not an end, but only a beginning.
So you would go from here to Aleph,
From here, you would whoosh, come up and over and into Aleph.
up and into,
So
okay.
yeah, so that's the renewal into Aleph.
Well,
Bet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gimel.
Tav is like also a distinction. It's like a little mark, you know,
A check
where
mark.
things, yeah, well, it's just like
Yeah.
where things might go. Like you might have a certain mark that explains, you know, put this one into that one and that one, that. It seems like it's kind of finding your place also, your individual place.
So let's quickly go through the final letters.
Okay. So if we
Kaf.
did it, the final letters in alphabetical order, we'd start with Kaf. And that is palms facing in. The arms are down. No. Palms facing forward, sorry. Kaf, palms facing forward. And then if we went in alphabetical order from there, we would go to Mem, right?
Yes.
So Mem is out to the side. Mem is the great expanse,
Yes, that's right.
which really relates to water.
Right.
You can just see that expanse of a horizon.
But if you turn it, you get the circumference of the earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah, the great expanse in all directions.
Yeah.
Nun is straight overhead and the palms are together. Sadi, the hands come down. Oh, we forgot Pei. I don't know where that is in alphabetical order, but Pei looks like a puff fish. I learned it that the back of the hand comes all the way in. So
How did you get from the final nun to the pay? Did you come around this way and curve? Or did you come in
well,
the
there
middle?
is no connection between the
There's no
final letters
connection.
because they don't have a sequence. So it's
Okay.
really like I usually teach it, you know, learn this one because it's a little strange. So do that one first. That's Pei.
And Sadi?
There's three that are down. So Tzadi is palms in. So there's three that are down, palms in, palms out, and then
Okay.
Nun is straight up.
Nun.
And then what I'm missing
and
is
down.
A and one other letter.
Let's,
That's it.
last.
Final Sadi.
Final
That's
study.
it, yeah.
Yeah, but that's here.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
where
all
you're
five?
ending.
Did we get
Yeah,
five?
that's
we did,
Yep.
yeah.
One, two,
Right.
three,
Kaf.
four. I'm missing one.
No, you had Kaf, Mem, Nun,
Pei.
Pei,
Mem is the fifth.
and Sadi.
Mem is the fifth.
You did-
Perfect.
Don't forget poor
So it's,
Mem.
yeah, so it's curled in for Pei, it's out for Mem. And then there's three with the arms straight over, one overhead. Cuff is down. Sadi is just simple being. Yeah, that's
Okay.
our alphabet in gesture.
All right, let's have a seat.
Yeah.
So you can see it's not as easy as it might look in the book or on the video. It is a little bit complex. I mean, we want to go for accuracy. I think it's kind of important. And there are subtle differences, as we see.
Yeah.
And, you know, the idea being that, yes, we can go from one letter to another, follow the progression, find meaning in that. We can put words together, find meaning in that, the actual words that make up the letters. So there's so many different ways that you can look into this. I did, you know, there's these little drawings in the chart in the book, the little painting or the little guy with the gesture. I took those and I animated them. And I did, I think, the first paragraph of Bereshit. So seeing the gestures moving around continuously with no breaks didn't seem to have any meaning. I mean, I didn't get anything from it. And that's why I didn't do anything with it. But I think it's in terms of, you know, developing meanings, knowing the meanings, and then putting them together so that there is actual form of communication.
So when I looked at each letter, when I had a featured letter for a section of the dance, I spelled the letter.
Yeah.
So nun, for instance, would be nun, vav, nun sofit. And those letters became the combinations that we used to then create movement from. Aleph, the same thing, because the final was so interesting, because when they first learned it, we were doing pay, and then I learned the final pay, so we changed the choreography so that from the lamed, they would go in and under to a final pay. And you can spell your own name, you can spell the 4 essential letters in God's name, just any word that is meaningful. When you gesture it, more meaning comes through.
Well, we hope we can develop more of your work, Idelle. You know, at some point, you know, try to get it sponsored with perhaps music by Daniel. That's kind of our kind of vision going forward. But Idelle, do you want to talk about your event coming up, or is that something?
Yes, the Aleph organization, the Alliance for Jewish Renewal, has a gathering called Kala 2023, and it's in Philadelphia, July 3rd to the 7th. And I will be teaching one morning class where I'm going to be using the gestures of a particular word that came from the Parsha of that week. So I'm excited about it, and the write-up for the class is on the Aleph website. I think if you just Google Kala 2023.
I could put up the information.
It is very, very exciting, the numbers of teachers and courses, and so many people applied to teach. I was really thrilled that I was given a 1-day course. I had hoped for a 4-day course, but maybe another Kala, I'll be able to do a 4-day course. But then I get to take a 4-day course in the afternoon, and I get to take the days I'm not teaching. I can take some 1-day courses, and I've already registered and picked the classes that seemed like I would really relate well to that material, and will be learning so much. And then there's celebrations at night, and there's performances and music.
Wow.
So,
and this is taking place where?
A real high experience, and they haven't been able to do it for 2 years because of the pandemic.
Two questions. Is this going to be available online, live? Is it something?
Yeah, it's open now for registration.
But we can watch it online. It's not all just being there in person.
No, it's all in person.
In person, and this takes.
Yeah, I don't believe it's anything in line.
Okay.
So they can house 350 people, and then others will stay in places in the area, and they expect 800 maybe to even be attending the full.
And that's happening in New Jersey.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay, so yeah, I'll put the flyer up on the screen.
It's in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is nearest to Philadelphia, about 30 minutes outside.
Well, very cool. So we hope we've demonstrated the value of these hand gestures. We'll be talking about it more in the future. And you can see, we're all learning. It's a learning process, much more to learn and much more to talk about. So we look forward to future episodes where we'll be addressing these things. But for now, we've got to go. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.